Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. My name's Joey Weaver. He is Mike McDaniel. Mike, week 10 in the books. We are live, youtube.com/at the ACC Football Podcast. How you doing? You ready to recap some games?
I poured myself 100 proof Heaven Hill. Yes, Daddy Sippy Cup. It's almost to the top because I was telling you before we hit record, I don't really.
Hang on. Sorry, you got muted there. Sorry. You were telling me off the top. Say that again.
I was telling you off the top that I don't get too frustrated or angry, like flat out angry anymore about Virginia Tech games. Because we've been doing this podcast for a while. I got my Virginia Tech podcast. I write a lot of college football stuff for Sports Illustrated. There's a lot that goes on where essentially I watch a lot of really, really dumb and bad college football, and realizing that like this happens to everybody's team makes me feel a little bit better when Virginia Tech loses in a really dumb way. But they found a way to piss me off today. So that's my pour tonight. I'm frustrated, very angry.
Love going for like 2.5 fingers of 100 proof bourbon. That is indicative of where we're at right now.
Yeah, hot start.
I'm with you, by the way, that I have gotten softer in my old age, in my early 30s. Again, I've watched enough of this, and I think there's also an element of like if you watch this conference and all of these teams for long enough, you kind of lower your expectations, and it's really hard to be disappointed if you have low expectations to begin with. So at that point, you kind of get what you get, and you roll your eyes and you move on. Which,
yeah,
what a way to go through life, right?
I mean, try not to get never too high, never too low,
right?
But when you get too low, it's we're pouring two and a half fingers of Heaven Hill 100 proof. That's what happens.
As one does. Mike, we got 6 games to recap here. As mentioned, by the way, we are live, youtube.com/at the ACC Football Podcast. It is currently 12:32 a.m. on the East Coast. At some point during the show, it'll probably be 1 o'clock twice, if I just had to guess by the odds. Clock's falling back, and we'll see if we can get out of here in under an hour and a half. But as things would typically go, unlikely.
Unlikely, yeah. We have done this before. We have recorded late night before when the clocks have changed, and we've been in the 1 o'clock hour twice, a couple different times on this podcast. So have a feeling we might be heading that direction again.
That's right. Shout out to the folks in the chat joining us. We had for a short day of only 6 games, we had some stuff to talk about. So appreciate the people joining us. If you have not already, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon. You'll find out when else we're going to go live in the future. We really, really appreciate that. We were really stoked in our preview that we finally hit 500 subscribers. That was a season-long goal you guys got us to in just like 2 months, basically. So absolute rock stars are our listeners, and really appreciate your support. Please keep it going. It only helps us more the more subscribers that we have on this channel, the more cool things we're going to be able to do for you guys. So please hit that button as you would.
We are trying to get to 550 subscribers. I decided by the end of November. I put a tweet out on Friday just declaring that. We are up to 505. We're 45 away. We have, about 4 weeks to get to 550. I think we can do it.
I think we can
too. So
if
you're listening to us for the first time tonight, you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button. If you're a regular listener and haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please, for the love of God, hit the subscribe button. Please. Thank you.
Please do. Mike, are you good for a 10-minute Rhoback rapid recap?
Let's do it.
Do you have like a ducky timer or something we can work off of? Because, by the way, I can't believe we haven't mentioned this yet. Scott not with us tonight. I think he's traveling or something. What's he up to?
He's at a wedding in South Carolina.
There you go. He's at a fall wedding. We love fall weddings on this show. So Scott is at one of those. Was not able to join us tonight, and so as you can tell, between the late start time, the questionable banner situation, there's like a timesheet timestamp sheet that's probably not going to get all that
boy,
updated very well.
Thanks for reminding me, because I'm
Inmates,
going to be the one to update that.
the inmates are running an asylum tonight, basically, because Scott's not here. So it's going to be a mess, and please stick with us.
Oh, man, I'm really glad you said the thing about the timestamps. Okay.
I started a new tab on the sheet. It's called Sheet 40. So see if you can find that.
Oh my god. All right, well, I'll work on pulling that up.
There you go. All right. Let's get into a Rhoback rapid recap. As always, please go to Rhoback.com. Use promo code GOACC20 for 20% off your first order. All sorts of fantastic athleisure wear, I guess is what they call it. Polos and hoodies, and they've got some fleece jackets, and they've got joggers, and just all sorts of really comfortable, good-looking, really classy stuff. Very high quality. I've got a bunch of their polos. Again, I mentioned I wear them to work, I wear them to church, I wear them everywhere. I've had them for years. Those colors are still crispy. They do not bacon up like a lot of the fancy athletic polos do. Rhoback.com, again, promo code GOACC20 for 20% off your first order. That is a great set of apparel, both visually and quality-wise.
Cannot speak more highly of Rhoback.
Absolutely. Mike, you ready?
I found sheet 40. I am ready.
There you go. There it is.
Ready?
The
10 minutes on
Rhoback
the clock.
rapid recap. Yeah, we got a 10-minute recap of 6 games starting in 3, 2, 1. Let's start here. Number 5, Miami, 53, Duke 31. I kind of don't even know what to make of this game, because as somebody who took Duke plus 20 or 20 and a hook on the preview, and we got like midway through the third quarter and Duke was winning the game on the field, I thought I was a genius. And then Miami just, hits the gas and blows Duke out of the water and ends up covering by like a 1.5 here.
Yeah.
I mean, this keeps happening with Miami, Mike, where they just sleepwalk through the first half of games, and it doesn't matter because their offense can just decide to start playing with 10 minutes left in the third quarter, and they'll score 50 points, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think I'm getting to the point with Miami where it just is what it is. Like, they have one of the best offenses in college football, so when they decide they're going to hit the gas, they hit the gas, and then that's it. They score in a flurry, and you blink, and all of a sudden you go from, your team being up 10, 11 points to then being down 10 or 11 points. This is just what they do. Duke went up 28-17 in this game today in the second half, and they basically blinked, and then all of a sudden Miami took the lead, and it was a span of 20 real life minutes. It was, basically I looked away from the television, and I was like, oh, I see Miami's retaking the lead. Yeah. And then that's all she wrote. They hit the gas pedal and they left Duke in the dust. So the end result of Miami covering the spread is not how we necessarily thought we would get there, but Miami screwing around at the same time was kind of predictable. We knew they would do that. I was just surprised it lasted until the third quarter against this version of Duke.
Only thing I'll mention here, and we can move on and dive in this any more deeply if we need to. There was a sequence, was it late in the third maybe, where Miami had taken the lead 32-28. Duke drives down. I think they're inside the 5-yard line. They end up kicking a field goal to make it 32-31. And on the broadcast, I forget, was it Greg McElroy or someone was openly questioning the decision from Manny Diaz. Like, do you think you're going to beat this Miami team with field goals?
Yeah.
And then Duke comes out, squib kicks a kickoff. Miami runs it back to like midfield. And I think within no more than 3 offensive plays, they go down and score a touchdown and take a big lead. And that was as close as it ever got from there. And so it was a little bit funny in the moment hearing that questioning. And it was like, well, yeah, it's a great question. Like, why are we kicking a field goal from the 3-yard line as the underdog with a chance to like take the lead again in the second half? So anyways, that came back to bite Duke for sure.
Yeah. It's, again, a team that's really good going up against a team that's not very good, and the not very good team took advantage of a very slow start for Miami in this one. And I was impressed by the Hurricanes the last quarter and a half. Obviously, it's hard not to be when they start scoring in bunches like that. They are going to continue getting away with this. The ACC is just way too muddy this year, and they're really talented, and Cam Ward is just so good. I mean, they're going to continue getting away with this, just the way that is.
Yeah, well, they've got a treacherous road game next week in Atlanta, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
Louisville,
make sure to
33. Louisville, 33, number 11, Clemson, 21. In a game that, honestly, Mike, wasn't this close. What a wild game. What an upset. Louisville just goes into Death Valley and basically puts the clamps on Clemson from the beginning here. This was, and I don't even know, on some level, I don't know if this was even like a Jeff Brom special. This was just like Louisville's defense put the clamps on Clemson's offense from the beginning of this game. Never gave up anything, it felt like.
Everything, especially in the passing game for Clemson, was really hard here. And it wasn't that Cade Klubnik played poorly. It was that literally all he had was a short passing game tonight. Like, Louisville took everything away. I mean, Klubnik was really grinding just to, like, complete 5- and 6-yard passes. I mean, this was a really, really impressive defensive performance. Jeff Brom, they brought this up in the broadcast. Like, Jeff Brom has been saying, like, if Louisville doesn't turn the ball over, they're a really hard team to beat because of how aggressive they can be defensively, which I agree with. But they've been turning the ball over so much this year that I'm just really surprised that this was the game where they go on the road in Death Valley and play their best football. Really, really impressive by Louisville. And for Clemson, this is tough because you're 5-1 in ACC play. You no longer control your own destiny to get to Charlotte. SMU's got an easier road. Miami's got an easier road for sure. And you're sitting in a position where you probably need to get to the conference title game to have a chance at the playoff. So now this is a really precarious situation for the Tigers. They're going to need some help.
100%, 100%. Huge win for Louisville. I would imagine probably the biggest win of the Jeff Brom era so far at Louisville. And then, as mentioned, I mean, Clemson missed a field goal, had another field goal blocked. They turned it over on downs on their own end of the field. Like, there was some bad situational stuff from the Tigers in this game that kind of helped lend itself to a Louisville upset here. But the Cardinals, I mean, what a complete performance from them, the likes of which we have not really seen from them so far this year. So shout out to Jeff Brom and that team.
Yeah, for sure.
Number 20, SMU, 48. Number 18, Pittsburgh, 25.
No-show, Pitt. A total no-show by Pitt.
Absolute no-show by Pittsburgh. Like, unbelievable that they looked like they didn't want to be here, Mike. Like, if I was watching this game in the first half and like they're down by a couple scores, and it was like offensive linemen are just like, I don't know, I don't really feel like blocking today. Like, there was just, I mean, just for a team that came off the game that they had last week and as feeling good about themselves as they were and all this stuff. This was bad from Pitt. Yeah. This was like you said, complete no-show.
Complete no-show. SMU, really impressive, played very well. Pitt just wanted no part of this game, which is, I think, pretty annoying if you're a Pitt fan, because this was one of the games you had circled as you continued to stack up the wins, and then you just go on the road and completely lay an egg. I mean, just horrible performance by the Panthers.
Yeah, really bad. Pitt, like you mentioned before, Pitt, not Pitt, SMU in the driver's seat to go to Charlotte. We're 5-0 in conference?
SMU and Miami looking more and more likely. By the way, we have 3 minutes.
Yeah, we can keep moving here. NC State 59, Stanford 28. The producer's pick of the week does not come through yet again.
We had a text exchange with Scott. Don't worry. He's been keeping an eye on these games today, and I told him we had to boycott the producer's pick of the week, choosing the Stanford Cardinal. We tried to warn him. That's all I can say about that.
I tried really hard. Stanford, for my money, worst team in the ACC.
Asshole. They're very bad.
Tough but fair.
Yeah.
NC State, again, like, level of competition, a bit of a sticking point here, but like, I think they're figuring some stuff out. Like, NC State's better than they were a month ago, and that's a compliment to that coaching staff.
Yeah, CJ Bailey's getting more and more comfortable. I think it's pretty clear. He's been showing some signs, and then it started to really click against poor competition today. But again, it's better than it not clicking against poor competition, so you'll take it.
Speaking of complimenting coaching staff, Syracuse 38, Virginia Tech 31 in overtime.
Shoot me into the sun.
This was bad, Mike.
Kyron Drones did not play. Bashal Tutin did not play. Virginia Tech had a 21-3 lead in spite of not having their starting quarterback and star running back in this game. They were up 3 scores in the third quarter. The defense was playing fantastic in the first half. Speaking of no-shows, they came out at halftime and the defense just stopped playing football, gave up 35 second half points. This game went to overtime. Virginia Tech loses 38-31, giving up 35 second half points defensively. Piss poor performance. I am out. I'm out on Pry. So you're going to have to do something to get me back in. I am out.
We can explore that here in a little bit. I will say, to your point, objectively coming into this game, if I said they lose to Syracuse, that's not objectively a bad loss. Like, Syracuse is fine and doing their own thing. What makes this a bad loss is the how. And like you mentioned, they're up by a whole bunch, and especially they're up by a whole bunch without some of their most important personnel on offense. Like, they managed a way to score 31 points, I think, in regulation. Mm-hmm. Like, they had a 3-score lead at one point, like all this stuff, and yet you still find a way to lose. That's what makes it a bad loss to me.
Agree. We'll get into that in a second. We have 20 seconds.
UNC 35, FSU 11.
More of the same from the Seminoles. They had 200 yards of offense against a mediocre North Carolina defense, and North Carolina went for 500 yards.
Obviously, I didn't need 20 seconds. I didn't need 20 seconds on that game. That was
we made it.
2-1, and there we go. All right. As mentioned, that was the Rhoback Rapid Recap, brought to you by Rhoback.com. Use promo code GOACC20 for 20% off your first order. All sorts of wonderful polos, athleisure, all sorts of good stuff there. We love ours. You will love yours. Mike, where do you want to start?
Cuse 38, Virginia Tech 31.
Let's make sure Ricky can get to bed at a decent hour.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's make sure he can get to bed. Yeah, I mean,
when did Kyron Drones get hurt, by the way? Because he played the entire game last week against Georgia Tech.
That's great. I have no idea. It's a great question. This didn't even really come to the surface until Friday night. There were rumors on message boards that he was going to be limited. Then shortly thereafter, there were people saying, like people in the know were saying, hey, I'm not sure Drones is suiting up tomorrow. Like, wait a minute. We've gone from everything's cool to now he's limited to now he may not even suit up. No idea. It is a foot injury for Kyron Drones. I can tell you that. Not sure the extent of it, but obviously enough, causing him enough pain for him to not play today. Bashal Tutin, I mean, we saw what happened at the end of that game last week. He was kind of bent up into kind of a pretzel. So Brent Pry did the whole gamesmanship thing, saying he was probable, and then, of course, didn't suit up and play. So we'll see going into Clemson if he's going to be healthy or not. But in spite of all that, Virginia Tech starts Colin Schlee, a quarterback, veteran, journeyman guy. He's been around the block. He actually played pretty well in this game, put Virginia Tech in position to win. I thought gave Virginia Tech a shot offensively. He threw the ball pretty well here. He took care of the football. Didn't put the ball in harm's way, is what I'll say. Obviously had a fumble that was charged to him there as Syracuse was making their comeback, but I thought overall he played pretty well. I mean, you have your backup throwing for 206 yards and a touchdown, high completion percentage, making some high accuracy throws. You'll take it.
He looked great in the first half.
Looked really good. And Virginia Tech, again, you go up 21-3, defense is playing great, you're putting yourself in good position, and then, like we've seen this year, stuff started snowballing for the Hokies, right? Syracuse got a couple stops defensively, it included some turnovers, right? A couple fumbles, pretty tough scenario to put yourself into, and then you're putting your defense in a really tough spot. With that said, with the way the defense was playing, though, they should have been able to get off the field, and all of a sudden they were giving up explosives in the running game. They were giving up some Kyle McCord passes deep down the field, and before you knew it, you look up and Syracuse has a lead. It's like this game was 21-3, and now you're trailing going into the fourth quarter. So it simply can't happen. Simply can't happen. And I guess where I'm at here on the coaching staff piece, I mentioned that I'm out on Brent Pry.
Mm-hmm.
I guess where I'm at here is Virginia Tech's now 1-11 in one-score games, and I've mocked that stat a lot. We have a lot of Virginia Tech fans that listen to this that also listen to my Tech podcast. I've mocked that stat a lot because I don't think it tells the full story. I don't think all one-score games are necessarily created equal, and the problem that I had going into this year is half of those one-score games came with a really bad roster in year one. So it's like that's where the not all one-score games are created equal. Problem is this is a growing thing now, right? We have a 12-game sample size. We have multiple games this year with Virginia Tech's best roster and Brent Pry's tenure.
Year 3.
They found a way to lose another one-score game. And you've now lost one-score games to Rutgers and Vanderbilt and Syracuse and Miami. You've lost 4 of these, right? All 4 of your losses are by one score. And you've put yourself in a position now where the fan base is looking at you with an eyebrow raised, because this was a team that, I don't think it's any secret, was one of the trendy picks to make it to Charlotte and compete for the ACC title, given how they played the second half of last year, what they were returning, and how things seem to be trending just from a program standpoint, culture, vibes, all that stuff. We were kind of looking for that team out of the middle pack of the ACC. At the beginning of the year, it was like 3 or 4 teams. Joey, we were texting about this. There's like 12 teams where any given Saturday in the ACC, they're either going to win or they're going to lose, or they're going to give you a great performance or a head-scratching performance. They're really, really hard to handicap. And there are a bunch of teams in that category this year. Virginia Tech is one of them. And now you're staring 5 losses in the face because you have Clemson coming to town next Saturday. I'll tell you what, Joey, Clemson is going to come in very pissed off after how they played tonight against Louisville. And Virginia Tech, we don't know if they're going to be at full health. And even if they are, they have to play their best game to even be in position to give themselves a chance. So now you're staring 5 losses in the face, which in year 3, when you have all these expectations for the first time and you have this kind of roster returning, is really unacceptable, right? And what's most frustrating about this for me is that Tech does this thing where the offense will play poorly, right? Like Bowen will either lay an egg from a scheme standpoint, or the execution's not, maybe he's scheming it up, and the players aren't executing, and then the defense is playing well. Or maybe it's the other way around, like it was today, where Bowen, I thought, called maybe his best game in 3 years in Blacksburg, and he's been calling good games for about a month. He's been, I think, not the reason why Virginia Tech lost today.
Yeah, and I'm on the text thread. Y'all have been happy with Bowen for a month or so now. Like he's been doing pretty well.
He's been doing well, but then the defense does what it did in the second half. Or you have a special teams gaffe, or you have coaching management stuff. Where I'm at is this coaching staff can't get this football program to play 4 quarters of football. And this is now a consistent trend. You didn't do it in year 1. We gave you a pass. You didn't do it in the first half of last year. But the second half was so good, we kind of gave you a pass. This year you had a bunch of expectations. We are not giving you a pass. And you're still doing the same stuff with a more talented roster. And it's just like you're finding bad teams find ways to lose. They are finding ways to lose close games. You either win a game by 17 or more, with the exception of last week against Georgia Tech. You either win an ACC game by 17 or more in the Brent Pry era, or you lose in most cases. Like that's pretty much it. They can't win close games. And in this conference, you have to find a way to win close games, because you're going to be dragged into the mud by these teams who any given week are going to... The ACC is stupid. We've been talking about this conference, Joey, for a decade, you and I, on this podcast.
So this is year 9, and nothing ever changes. They add teams, they change coaches, doesn't matter. It's always the same conference, Mike.
It's in the walls. It's in the furniture. Like
it's in the carpets.
It's in the carpets. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's insanity over and over again. So I'm out on Pry. Maybe I'm quitting early, but I'm out. So feel free to lure me back in. You've been recruiting well. the culture is in a better spot than it was under Fuente, but the results were the same. This program is stagnant. It's running in place. It's in the mud. It's just, you lose these games once a month, and it gets really infuriating and frustrating. And it's just kind of the same thing over and over again. You win a few games and you lose one like this. You win a few games, you lose one like this. You lose a few to start the year, you go on a run, you lose another one like this. And it's been kind of rinse and repeat with this coaching staff now for 2.5 years. And it's just growing data. And I don't know. I think in the offseason, this is going to be a position where he's going to have to make some coaching staff changes. Like, time is of the essence. This is, an era of college football where you can't sit on your hands. Yep. So again, I'm out on Pry. Feel free to lure me back in. But for now, like, I'll just sit back. I'll watch the games. I'll hope for the best. I want the staff to do well. But my expectations obviously are gone. It's a 4-loss season. We're heading towards at least 5. And Duke and Virginia can be pesky if you play like you did today in the second half. So let's see how this turns out.
A few thoughts here. First of all, it's interesting to me that you're saying that you are out. Well, here we go. You're out on Brent Pry, but you're leaving the door open for him to like win you back, basically.
Win you back.
So you're not like fully sold that like that he can't do this. That this is going to be a failed tenure, because I know we can't fire him right now. Like, Tech can't fire him. Yeah. So that's another piece of fun of you're buried under a buyout that you can't really get out from under. So
and the culture the culture is like, the culture's good and he's recruiting pretty well, right? So he's like bringing that. So there's like some positive signs, but like on the field it's more of the same. And there's a lot of talent on this team, and he's not getting the most out of it.
Yeah. So that's fair. And again, I'm kind of with you that there's been a lot of these like kind of suspect losses, and especially the close game thing. Like it's like if a game is within 6 points, like you're going to lose. Like that's a crappy place to be, right? With your coaching staff. But there's also an element too that you kind of mentioned of not being able to play 4 full quarters, and like there was a stretch here, especially like late in the first half, that like Virginia Tech's defense looked phenomenal. I mean, they were harassing Syracuse's offense. Kyle McCord was like, it looked like he like had PTSD coming off of last week's game, like was short arming some throws and just looked like he did not know what to do half the time, right? Like the Hokies had him in a blender, and then all of a sudden, like, so they come out at halftime, Syracuse goes 4 and out, punts, and then from there, Syracuse final 5 drives of regulation. Touchdown, 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 3 and out, touchdown, right? Like, you really just needed 1 stop more than you got. You had 5 drives, you needed 2 stops, you only got 1, and the rest were touchdowns, and that's what sent the game to overtime, all that. So, yeah, just it was wild to me that, like, the Hokies for 35, 40-ish minutes almost, like, were able to more or less shut the Syracuse offense down. Yeah. And then it seemed like they just, like, let go of the rope. And that does feel like that's kind of on the coaching staff at some point, is you got to keep an edge for 60 minutes, because if you just start to rest on your laurels, like you're going to lose games like this, especially like you mentioned, this conference that is as chaotic as it is. Other thing I wanted to mention, and I kind of said this with Kyle McCord, I don't know what to make of this Syracuse team, because
I think again, they're bad. I don't think they're that good. That's the frustration. We were texting about this earlier. I don't think they're that good.
I don't think they're that good. I don't think they're that bad. Like, if I had to describe it, I'd probably say, like,
sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
Like, I think that's
may be good, sometimes may be shit.
We're on a loop.
Yeah, just on loop. Just exactly like that. Like, I mean, Syracuse basically had 6 straight quarters here where their offense looked lost in the wilderness. They turned the ball over a bunch going back to the Pittsburgh game, and then they come out of the second half and kind of caught fire, but like, I don't like they try to do this like almost semi-air raid thing where we're going to like put the whole thing on Kyle McCord's arm. But like, I think that's kind of starting to get some diminishing returns. I don't know why they're hesitant at times to just run LaQuint Allen, who's very good and seems like they can make some hay there. Like I just don't know what to make of this Syracuse team. I'm impressed that they came back and they won this game. Like, again, they found a way to stay in it and to, not quit and give up on this game. But like, they are a roller coaster ride of a team in terms of what you see from not only week to week, but like drive to drive, quarter to quarter. Like there is a real lack of consistency there, and I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, it's not good. They're very up and down. We don't know what we're going to get, right? And it's been like this for most of the season. Like, they're sitting here with a 6-2 record, and we're having discussions in the middle of the Virginia Tech game, wondering if Syracuse is any good or not. This is the same stuff we've been doing for several ACC teams this year. It's the same conversation we had about Pitt and SMU on the preview pod. It's the same conversation I've had about Georgia Tech this year at times. Like, we're bringing this up with a whole host of teams in this conference, and it's that whole middle group of teams. We're like, are these teams any good? There are a lot of them this year.
How do you feel about
particular?
Woke Furby's take here? Which, by the way, that's a fantastic username. Shout out.
Syracuse is the best bad team in the ACC, and Virginia Tech is the worst good team. Fair enough.
No arguments here.
10 out of 10. No notes. I'm good.
I got nothing to say to that. Nothing to say you're wrong. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Other thing I wanted to mention in this game. Should we talk for just a minute about how you talked about some frustration with the coaching staff and kind of more from a larger scale standpoint? Mm-hmm. Can we talk about Brent Pry's management of the final 35 seconds of regulation here?
Yeah.
Like, they had at least one. Did they have 2 timeouts, I think?
They had 3. They had all 3.
You had all 3 timeouts.
Yeah.
You had about 30 seconds. You're tied. You needed, 40 yards-ish to get into field goal range? You
have one of the best kickers in the ACC on your sideline. Yeah. John Love is fantastic.
Who can hit from 50 or more, right? Like,
yep.
Far, far stranger things have happened than coming up with 35, 40 yards in 27 seconds with 3 timeouts. And I understand that your backup's in there, and he was even kind of gimpy at that point. Like, he had, he kind of rolled an ankle at some point, and like it wasn't looking great. But like, it is pretty ballsy, and you really open yourself up to some criticism by just taking a knee, letting 30 seconds bleed off the clock with all 3 timeouts in your pocket, saying, yeah, we'll play for overtime. And then to go into overtime, you won the toss, you start on defense, 2 plays, touchdown for Syracuse, and then you lose after. Like, that is a pretty bad look for Brent Pry in my mind. Yeah. That's the decision making that you made, and you see where it got you.
This is what he does. Virginia Tech plays not to lose under Pry, and it bites him in the ass. This is what you get.
Happens a lot in college.
It does happen a lot in college, just in general. We see this a lot. It's not just Pry with the 1-11 record in 1-score games. There's a lot of really bad clock management happening, like, across the sport today. I'm watching these games this afternoon. I'm just like, man, what are we doing, James Franklin?
Yeah.
Before halftime in the biggest game of the day, we're screwing around with the clock.
Really over and or under thinking it.
Right. I'm watching Will Howard scramble and fumble the ball out of the end zone for a touchback and throw a pick 6 in the first half. Like, this is what you get in this sport. Mm-hmm. You get 18 to 22-year-olds, and you get adults who can't do clock stuff.
And that's what makes it so fun, honestly.
It is what makes it fun.
Syracuse 38, Virginia Tech 31 in overtime.
Freaking sick. It's sickening.
Welcome to the club. We have jackets.
Yeah, this is what we do. Okay. Louisville 33, Clemson 21.
As mentioned, this was not that close.
No.
Like Louisville beat that ass for 60 minutes.
Yeah. Really, really impressive from Louisville here. Clemson had some issues in this game moving the football offensively. Phil Moppa's numbers look really good, but he was really struggling to get the running game going in the first half. Passing game, like I mentioned in the rapid react, like it was a lot of underneath stuff. Louisville took away the deep passing game of Clemson, which has really come along this year. It's one of the things that is kind of untapped. The Clemson offense, they really just took it away. Klubnik was under pressure consistently the entire game. The pass rush for Louisville here was really, really good. Klubnik was running for his life a lot. He was scrambling a lot. And you got to give Louisville's offense some credit here, too. They stuck to the running game. Isaac Brown was really good. Obviously, he had that long touchdown run in the second half that effectively ended the game, where he was taunting the Clemson mascot in the end zone and was putting the tiger to sleep, which is pretty funny. But in general, I thought, and we were texting about this part too, Louisville was not afraid to run Tyler Shuck in this game, and that is something we have not seen a lot of this year. You know, we've seen them a little bit reluctant to do it, and it's almost like they were holding on to it until they played a team that matters. Unfortunately, Louisville has lost 3 games prior to tonight, right? So they probably should have run him a little bit sooner, but it was pretty clear that Clemson didn't really know how to handle that aspect of the game because
ironic enough, we've seen exactly that you're describing from Clemson in the past. They didn't want to run Deshaun Watson. They didn't want to run Trevor Lawrence. But then you get into the playoff games, you get into the ACC championship, and oh, look, who's ripping off, 8, 9, 10 carries for 65 yards and picking up multiple first downs and scoring a touchdown here. And that's exactly what Clemson has done for a while. And like you mentioned, I mean, it's not like Louisville did that all night with Tyler Shuck, but he had a touchdown run in the red zone, like about a 4 or 5 yard touchdown run. He picked up another first down that was, I think, got him down to the 1. It was like almost scored on another one. And those are huge conversions for them. I think both of them are on third downs. I mean, that's a big deal, right? And to just be able to press that button and a guy who is mobile, and you've really been just avoiding it because of injury potential. So, but to be able to press that button, you got what you did, and that's a huge piece of being able to pull off an upset like this.
Yeah. Yep. And I look at this too, and like Tyler Shuck, he had 3 carries for 9 yards, but the touchdown run, Clemson's defense just wasn't ready for it, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the kind of stuff where it's like Clemson's defense, I think, we can agree, is good. Clemson has a good defense. Tonight, they were just taken aback by the rushing attack, and like from a scheme standpoint, Louisville just out-schemed Clemson's defense in the running game to the point where like Clemson was kind of left confused and like back on their heels a little bit. And Clemson's offense, man, it was struggling, and then it would get into field goal range. He had 2 field goals blocked tonight. Obviously not what you want. Situationally, I thought Louisville kind of took Clemson to the woodshed a bit, right? I mean, Louisville comes out of halftime, drives right down the field. Yeah, they kick a field goal. But it just felt like every time Louisville had a chance to put points on the board, they took it, right? They gave themselves opportunities in the red zone. They didn't always finish drives with touchdowns because Clemson does have a very good defense. But they kept putting points on the board, and they kept getting stops. And they would just keep kind of chipping away. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was most impressed of by Louisville tonight. It's been a theme all year with Louisville that they've kind of shot themselves in the foot. They've had some turnovers. They've had some special teams issues. They've had some breakdowns defensively. They didn't have that tonight. There wasn't a lot of that. They took care of the ball. They played good defense. Special teams, obviously, they won that battle with the 2 block kicks. They were just very fundamentally and situationally sound tonight in a way that they really haven't been all year long. And it looked more like the 2023 version of Louisville than the one we've seen most of this year. And to go and do that in Death Valley, I mean, we have Louisville accounts that we follow, people that, Mark Ennis and company. People are calling this the biggest road win in school history for Louisville. Like, this is a gigantic, program win for Jeff Brom to pick
that's
up
on the table
at this time in the tenure when you had, again, high expectations coming into the year. You've fallen a little bit short of them, I think, after how 2023 went. But then you kind of top that with winning this kind of game, which earns you a lot of goodwill in the fan base. This is the type of win you need.
Yep. It's an interesting point, the thought of biggest road win in program history, because now thinking back on it, I mean, for all of they've had some pretty big wins in program history dating back to the Big East days and such. But it's like every single one that I can think of was at Cardinal Stadium, basically. I mean, they knocked off a top 5 West Virginia team on a Thursday night in Cardinal Stadium way back. That was a Rich Rod West Virginia team. That was in Cardinal Stadium. The Lamar Jackson Heisman game against Florida State, that was at Cardinal Stadium, right? So, I mean, to do this, I think they beat Notre Dame last year, 2 years ago. That was at Cardinal Stadium, I think. So,
yep.
Yeah, going on the road and doing this was something else. And there was something weird about watching this game, honestly, because it felt like for the magnitude of kind of what was going on, the crowd, the environment here was like Louisville knocked Clemson's crowd out of this game early, and they just never came back.
Yeah.
And Louisville, to be fair, Louisville had this game at arm's length for most of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, they were up 10 points at halftime. That's unusual for Clemson. And then Louisville comes out, kicks field goals in their first 3 drives out of the half, and they extended all the way out to 26-7. And it felt like they just knocked the life out of that Clemson crowd. And all of a sudden, whatever home field advantage Clemson had was gone, basically.
Oh, yeah.
So that was definitely on the table here too. But yeah, I felt like the biggest thing here was Louisville was able to run the ball in a way that we're not used to seeing against Clemson's defense. And that was really impressive. And Louisville's defense had their game of the year, I think, so far. One of the best we've seen from them in a few years. I just, what a huge win for Jeff Brom in this program. And again, I feel weird because again, there's like a muted feeling about this because the crowd was so dead.
Yeah.
But I think the crowd was so dead because Louisville just owned this game basically the whole time, basically for at least for the final 3 quarters. So, yeah. I mean, huge win for Louisville. I got my my shirt on right now. Louisville, go Cardinals, go Cards, L1C4, whole thing. What a win for Louisville.
Louisville won the middle 8, 10-0 in a game they won by 12.
Yep. How about that?
They did the whole double score thing. They scored on their final possession of the half.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson kind of tried to drive a little bit and then end up just going into halftime, right? Not trying anything. Louisville comes out, started third quarter, first drive down the field, field goal, right? You go up 10. This part doesn't really matter a whole lot. I want to bring it up though because we've been talking about the whole game management thing. Again, it was 33-14 so let's take it with a grain of salt. It was late in the game. The likelihood of Clemson mounting a comeback very slim. But Clemson scores their final touchdown of the game with 2 minutes left, right? Phil Maffa runs it in to make it 33-20.
Mm-hmm.
So you're down 13 with 2 minutes left. If you go for 2, you're down 11 instead of 12 Okay.
So touchdown
So
and a
you-
field goal instead of 2 touchdowns, basically.
Correct. The game was pretty much over, so it's not that big of a deal. But Dabo kicked an extra point there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, man. Like, sure.
Bit of a subtle white flag, maybe.
A subtle, that's what I'm saying. Like a subtle white flag. Like, you know you're not going to win the game. Okay. But it's just like, you never know. So I found that interesting. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. And it's not like an egregious game management thing because, like, this thing was a wrap. But after that, it really was a wrap because they weren't going to even get 2 possessions. But in the event that they did, you'd rather have a touchdown, go for 2, kick a field goal, give yourself an opportunity. But anyway.
I also thought a little bit telling was Clemson's driving going into the fourth quarter, and a little over 2 minutes into the fourth quarter, that was when they lined up to kick a field goal. They had 4th and 6 from the 7-yard line, right? Like, you're inside the 10 in a game where you're down 26-7.
They kick.
You're
3.
down.
They kick for 3.
You're down 19 points, and I think they made the point in the broadcast, like, look, like, you're down 19, so if you kick a field goal, now it's 2 touchdowns, right? It's 2 possessions. So
Louis Riddick's like, hey, what are we doing here? Like, let's get a little aggressive. Let's, like, pick up the pace. He kept saying that, pick up the pace just on the drives in general.
Show some urgency, yeah.
Yeah.
So they like to kick a field goal. Well, lo and behold, Mike, blocked.
Yep.
Blocked, and yeah, that was kind of all she wrote for Clemson.
Yeah.
So, a little bit total system failure here for Clemson tonight. And
Yeah.
again, there's going to be a stat out there somewhere. My goodness, my dad texted me a little bit before we went online saying something like this was the first time that Clemson had lost at home in like 11 years. And I don't think it's exactly that. There's got to be another qualifier on there, like first time they've lost a conference game at home in 11 years or something to that effect. But I could see that. Clemson has not lost at home in a long time. And for Louisville to go in here and do this on a night like tonight, I mean, just wow. Credit to Jeff Brom and that staff for getting that team ready to go.
Louisville's first ever win against Clemson.
Yeah. I think they're, what, 1-8 now? Or
They're 1-8 now. Yep, 1-8 now.
you know what that sounds like to me? Sounds like they're on the board.
They're on the board.
On the board.
Clemson's out of the ACC title race. I mean, they're technically in it, but like they need a lot of help.
Yeah.
They need some help.
Goodness.
Alexis Solaris, someone get the trainers for Joey's cough.
He's not wrong. That was the other thing I wanted to mention about this game was bigger picture. Any thoughts, etc., that we had about the ACC as a 2-bid league?
Man,
This win by Louisville might have killed it.
I just wrote, that was one of my, I wrote a takeaways piece for Sports Illustrated tonight, and one of my takeaways was the ACC is a total mess. And in there, I talked about how I think the ACC might be a 1-bid league now, unless SMU beats Miami and Charlotte. Because I don't think, in that scenario, I don't think that Miami is going to fall from in the field at 12-0 to then totally out of the field at 12-1.
So you'd need a pair of 12-1 teams.
You need a pair of 12-1s. You need a pair of 12. I guess. Yeah, I guess it would be 12-1. Yeah, because SMU's only loss is BYU right now. So yeah, it would be a pair of 12-1s. I think that's the only scenario right now. I think there's still probably an outside chance, right? If SMU enters the conference title game with 1 loss and BYU wins the Big 12. And your losses are to the ACC champ and the Big 12 champ. I think there's a chance, obviously, SMU still gets in as maybe like the 11th or the 12th seed. But probably the 11th. They're probably going to stick the group of 5 at the 12th.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how I feel about that. Boise. I don't know. Anyway. But yeah, I think there is a scenario out there where SMU can still, get in without winning the ACC title game. But I think to absolutely guarantee it, I think they almost have to win the conference to lock that up for the ACC to be a 2-bid league. I think the ACC's best chance of doing that was Clemson and Miami. I think with SMU, SMU's not the brand that Clemson is, and when you're on the fringe, right, that stuff starts to matter, right? It's like, oh, we can have the Clemson brand on national television, and they've had a pretty good year. We can sneak them in.
Yeah.
That stuff starts to matter when you're talking about like 10, 11, 12.
Right. Yep.
In my opinion, anyway.
Clemson has games left at Virginia Tech, at Pittsburgh, home against South Carolina. Are they running the table in those 3 games?
Bro, did you see South Carolina tonight?
I did. Kind of wiped the floor with
beat the brakes off A&M.
Texas A&M. They were undefeated and no longer.
Keep an eye on South Carolina. South Carolina's got a lot to play for. Keep an eye on them.
Do they? I mean,
keep an eye on them.
Good to play spoiler, but
there's going to be would it shock you if a 3-loss SEC team made the playoff?
It would disappoint me.
Would it shock you?
No.
They got a lot to play for.
Yeah, well, ESPN has a lot of money in the pot, so yeah.
A lot to play for.
That Clemson at Pitt game here in a couple weeks becomes a huge deal because those are the 2 one-loss teams in conference now. We'll talk about Pitt in a minute. But if anybody is going to make Charlotte not named Miami or SMU, it's probably one of those 2. So that game in a couple weeks becomes an elimination game basically for those 2 teams. So
right.
We will see how that goes. But again, we got to hit on that SMU Pitt game here in just a minute, I'd imagine.
I think we just hit that now.
Louisville 33, number 11 Clemson 21 in a big ol' upset. So SMU Pitt.
SMU Pitt.
Number 20 SMU 48. The number 18 Pitt Panthers 25. And again, as mentioned in the rapid recap, SMU is not 23 points better than Pittsburgh. This was it felt like a total no-show from Pittsburgh. And I don't understand how that happens in a marquee spot, ranked game. Like you're in November, you're feeling good. We might have a shot to make a conference championship game. And you show up, and it was maybe the second quarter when I was sitting there seeing some body language and some stuff from Pittsburgh that's like, we don't want to be here right now. And it's like, I don't know what to make of that. That was kind of absurd to me that we were seeing that from Pitt, that they just let go of the rope early in this game, and SMU just smoked them. Yeah.
Yeah, SMU played really well here. I mean, I think part of this is SMU just playing well, and then Pitt find themselves in a hole and then just certainly rolling over, because I think that's exactly what Pitt did here. Big takeaway for me here, I thought Pitt got absolutely bludgeoned at the line of scrimmage, like on both sides of the ball. SMU got whatever they wanted in the running game. Pittsburgh could not run the football against SMU at all. Again, a little bit of a game script thing there too, because all of a sudden, like, Pitt was down in a hurry, right? So that's the other piece of this. They had to throw the ball a bunch. Eli Holstein had 48 passing attempts, and like, by the way, Holstein was limited all week. So, I mean, he's in a position where he's got to throw the ball 48 times, and he's like not at full health. I mean, he was cleared to play late in the week. Nate Yarnell took first-team snaps in practice for most of this week. And, Holstein, 29 of 48, 248 and an interception. There wasn't anything I saw out of Holstein that made me think that, like, he wasn't feeling at least close to 100%. So, I mean, it was more of, like, just SMU's defense, I thought, played really well tonight and put Pitt in some precarious situations. They really had a hard time running it. Pittsburgh did. Desmond Reed, his average comes out to almost 4 yards per carry, but like, he didn't really have much going at all. I don't know, man. I come away from this. I'm impressed by SMU. Like, I think SMU has a good team. SMU is doing better than I anticipated in year one in the ACC. Like I thought this would be probably like a 3 or 4 loss team. I thought they'd be like 8-4. They're 8-1 and 5-0, and they're probably going to finish with 10 wins, at least, maybe more. So
Boston College at Virginia, Cal. They're probably going to finish with 11 wins, Mike.
They're probably going to finish with 11 wins. Yeah.
I think I'm an SMU truther at this point, Mike. Like, I got to be honest. Like, I don't think SMU's bad. I really like. I think they're probably above average,
for sure.
I don't think they're a top 20 team in the country. I don't think they're good enough to be 8-1. I think some of this is, frankly, I think they got lucky, really, really lucky last week to beat Duke in a total just nonsense game that you play. If you play that game 10 times and you are -6 in turnovers every time, you probably lose 9.5 of them, right? Like you can't win that game again the same way. It's just not possible, basically.
Yeah.
And then I look at the ACC run that they've had: Florida State at Louisville, Stanford, Duke, Pitt. And again, this Pitt no-show at home. You won a nonsense game against Duke. You went to Louisville. Again, that was a bit of a, there was some late game referee nonsense. That was a close game. I don't think that SMU is reliably awesome from week to week in a way that, like, oh yeah, they're definitely like a top 20 to 25 team, especially if you start looking at like SP Plus or whatever. Like, I think they keep hitting 20s at the blackjack table and the dealer keeps busting, basically. Like, it's kind of what it feels like. And at some point that runs out, but do I think they're better than Boston College, Virginia, and Cal? Yeah, I kind of do. And like, so I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm just saying that they don't play Clemson. They don't play Miami. And at that point, yeah, like we talked about this middle 12 teams in the conference. And eventually, somebody's going to keep hitting double sixes and just win every game. Like, and what do you do with that? I don't know.
We've been asking all year who's the third best team in the ACC. I mean, we found it.
I
guess
SMU.
It's SMU. I mean,
I'm not convinced, but who else is it? Like,
who else is it? I mean, they already beat Louisville. They beat the piss out of Pittsburgh. Syracuse is Syracuse. SMU's better than Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech. They're better than Wake, Duke, and Carolina. I mean,
does this conference suck, Mike?
Yes. Absolutely it does. Absolutely. Absolutely it does. Yeah. Yeah, conference is bad. A lot of
kind of feels that way.
A lot of bad teams. I think SMU is definitively the third best team in the ACC. And
that's telling to me.
I mean, SMU and Clemson on a neutral field, I'm taking Clemson. Like, Clemson played a really bad game tonight,
Yeah.
And SMU can't play defense like that, like Louisville just did, right? And yeah, I think so they're definitively, like, power rankings wise. I know people hate power rankings because it's like, oh, this is what the committee does and it pisses everybody off. I get it. It makes me mad too. It made me mad with the Florida State thing last year, but like, power rankings wise, they're probably worse than Clemson and Miami.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also probably going to get to Charlotte. They'd have to lay an absolute egg against BC, Virginia, or Cal to lose any of those 3 games. They'd have to lay an egg. They're 2 scores better than each one of those teams. They'd have to lay an egg.
2 scores, maybe pushing it, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Oh, against who? Against who? Pushing against who? BC? Cal? Cal's offense? UVA?
I kind of think SMU is more like the king of this middle of the conference nonsense mountain. They're not totally separated from it, right? Like, That whole mountain is all within about a touchdown of each other. So, like,
Yeah.
I just don't think that anybody's 2 scores better than anybody else at that point.
That's fair. I mean, they're 1 week removed from a 6 turnover performance against Duke. So I mean, your point's well taken. Right?
Yeah,
They're probably somewhere. They're somewhere between the team that won by 3 scores against Pitt tonight and the team that won by a point against Duke last week.
right. Exactly.
So I mean, they're not as bad as they showed last week, and they're probably not as good as they look tonight. So they're probably king of the bad hill.
You want to know who's really happy that SMU won tonight?
Well, it's not Clemson. I'll tell you that.
I bet our buddy Cam is pretty happy that that SMU won tonight and that Clemson lost.
Be careful what you wish for. I mean, yes, in that context, absolutely, you'd rather play SMU than Clemson. But
I was texting my dad this afternoon when Duke was trying to do it against Miami, and then they eventually didn't. And I said, I can't wait to fade Miami in the ACC championship game and or in the playoff. And part of me thinking that was, well, they're going to be playing Clemson in the ACC championship game. Well, they might not be, because Clemson now has a loss, and I don't know that SMU is going to have one. So this might be your Charlotte matchup at this point.
Yeah, Clemson's going to be rooting really hard for Boston College, UVA, and Cal, because they want to get themselves in like a tiebreaker situation for that second. I mean, nothing's guaranteed. Clemson had to just win out, and they screwed around. And now they have Virginia Tech, who they should beat, but Virginia Tech's capable of playing up to teams, right? And you got to go on the road. And then you got Pittsburgh the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so had to win out in ACC play. Had to win out. Didn't do it.
Couldn't do it. Anything else? SMU, Pitt.
No, I think we're good. I think we covered all the ground there.
Mustangs 48, Panthers 25. I think we still got 3 more games to hit.
Yeah, we've kind of been. Well, I mean, these will be a bit easier.
Yeah.
Miami
and Duke.
Yeah, let's do it.
Got to do it. Miami 53, Duke 30. Sorry, number 5, Miami 53, Duke 31. Was there a point in this game in the second half, Mike, where you were like, what if Duke actually pulls this off?
Yeah, when it was 28-17.
Yeah, agreed. Like,
When it was 28-17.
There was something kind of obnoxious about this Miami team that, like, they're down 11 in the second half and still find a way to cover 20.5 in the game as a favorite. Like, I guess Duke's defense just kind of ran out of gas here in the second half, but Miami's offense especially just sleepwalking through the first half of this game, as we've seen them do several times this year. And yet at some point it becomes go time, and they're fully capable of just hitting the gas and often just pressing the Xavier Restrepo button 100 times. And I don't know at this point. I don't know. Do defenses just choose not to cover him? Is he not able to be covered? Because every Miami game I've watched for 3 years now, he is open on every single play, and it always works. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, so a couple thoughts. Restrepo's getting drafted, and whoever picks him in the NFL is going to get like a really good number 3, like slot guy.
He's going to be a nasty 4th round pick.
He is. Second thought. Restrepo is not only first team All ACC, he is potentially going to be an All American. I don't think that's hyperbole. Like, he's been phenomenal for Miami this year. I know we've like said in passing, we're like, oh yeah, players of the week. Yeah, I mean, Restrepo had another good game. He is sick. He's been really, really good.
Well, we saw like today he broke a couple of school records for career catches and yards. Have you seen some of the names that he has now beaten out for catches and yards?
Refresh my memory.
I believe that would be like Michael Irvin and Santana Moss. And you help me out here. I'm trying to Andre Johnson and Reggie Wayne. And I mean, there is a laundry list of like legendary wide receivers that have come through this school that now none of them have more career catches or yards than Xavier Restrepo has.
Yeah. Yeah. Good player. Came in at the right time. Had Cam Ward throwing him passes. That always helps.
Do not judge me for not remembering all of the other ridiculous Miami receivers that he has now beaten out too, by the way.
There are so many. There are so many. So the Heisman Trophy race is wide open, right? Like, there's
It's going to be a quarterback. I mean,
if it's going to be you took the words out of my mouth. If it's going to be a quarterback, there's not a single one I'm taking over Cam Ward.
No.
Like, Dylan Gabriel's been great for Oregon. I'm not taking him over Cam Ward. Shadur Sanders has been great for Colorado. Not taking him over Cam Ward. In terms of like actual impact on their team, there's not a single quarterback who's been more impactful than Cam Ward in college football this year. Unbelievable. He is the difference between, and we've hammered this home, he is the difference between 7-5 Miami and what we're seeing right now. He's the difference.
Yeah.
How many times in the 9 years we've been doing this podcast, how many times have we talked about Miami's so talented, can they get anything out of quarterback? It's been like the entire time. The entire time we've been doing this, we have not seen a quarterback like this at Miami. Like, that's what is separating the Hurricanes from being 9-0. We got to get Cam on, by the way.
We do. Underwood. Not Ward.
Yes.
But
not Ward. Well, wow.
We could get Cam Ward on. I mean, that would be great.
We could. I mean, we could try. Yeah, Underwood, yeah.
We do.
It's what's separating... Hi, Cam. It's what's separating 9-0 Miami from like the 7-5, 8-4 version that's like really pissed Miami fans off over the years. Alexis Solaris asks a really important question, Joey.
Oh, no. Not that question.
Not that one. What? That's one too. Why not both? Why not both? Hit the subscribe button.
Alexis Solaris also. Hi, Cam.
Yeah. What's your overall takeaway? So, I mean, we talked about it in the Rapid React, but like, Miami just does this thing where they screw around and then they hit the gas pedal. Are they just getting bored? Or is this just like what they do?
I think this is just another a symptom or like a component of what we're saying of the difference between like the Heisman level quarterback play that we're getting from Cam Ward and the other like basically like replacement level quarterback play they've been getting for a decade now, right?
Forever. Yeah.
Is with Cam Ward, they have the ability to like press that button and he can just kind of take over a game and stop screwing around and, you know, start slicing and dicing, right? And just go from there. I don't think it's a boredom thing. I think there's like a lack of focus, or there's, you know, because it's a little bit of what I mentioned in the preview, right? Is why would you take Duke plus the 20.5? It's like, well, how is Duke ever going to go into the Hornets' nest that is Hard Rock Stadium at noon against an unranked, you know, Duke? And, you know, like, you're playing in front of like a half-empty stadium, and you're like, it's a nooner and all this. Like, I feel like, yeah, they lose focus, or it's like it takes a full like 35 or 40 minutes of game time for him to really wake up and go. And
yeah.
And I don't know. That's part of where I wonder about if they were to play against a Clemson, or if they make the playoff and they go against Penn State, or they go against, you know, one of these teams from another conference that has like a legit good defense. If you wait 2.5 quarters to hit the gas, but if you're going up against a good defense, they still might be able to get some stops on you, and it might be too late, right? Like, is kind of where I'm thinking about this is like, you need to come out from the get-go and be on it. And if you can't be, you're going to lose a game against a good team. And the problem is that Miami doesn't play good teams this year until the ACC championship, and they're going to go play Clemson. Nope, sorry, they're going to play SMU. Okay, nope, you can play sleepwalk through 2.5 quarters there too. So now we're going to play to the playoff.
Yeah.
So and that's if anything, that's my frustration is that this Miami team, if they came out and they played like this from their first drive of games, I would have no questions. Like, they would be phenomenal. But they go through these extended stretches during games where it's like they just don't care. They're bored, like you said. Like, I don't know what it is. There is long stretches of inconsistency against inferior teams, and I'm like,
yeah,
are you really going to do this for a full 60 minutes against good teams, or is that going to be enough for them to put you away? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Alexis Solaris, good point. This is what Florida State and Jameis Winston did every week in 2020. That's a good comp, not because I think the teams are similar, because I don't. Because, like, I think it's clear Miami does not have a great defense. Like,
no, they don't.
They have an average to below average defense depending on the week, but they score so much it doesn't matter.
They give over 400 yards of offense to Duke.
Right. Like, today was really bad.
Not great.
2.5 quarters, it was really, really bad. But the overall premise, I think, is correct that Alexis Lars brings up. Like, this is kind of what they do. They screw around. It's like, okay, we think they're just getting by on talent. Another big difference is obviously Florida State won the title the year before. That's another big difference, obviously. But yeah, Florida State went to the Rose Bowl. It was the first year of the college football playoff. They went to the Rose Bowl and got pantsed by Oregon. Like, they went into that game and got embarrassed. And Miami does not play any good teams until the playoff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at the rest of the schedule. Like, okay, could they play feisty Florida in the finale? Yeah. Is Billy Napier still going to be the coach then? Like, Lagway got hurt today. Is he still going to be the coach then? They play Texas and they play LSU still. Good luck with that. Like, Napier might not even be the coach in the finale. Mm-hmm. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm annoyed that
I mixed up Florida and Florida State because we were talking about Florida State. Miami.
I was a little confused there for a second.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Anyway,
you're good. I'm a little bit irritated that Duke found a way to not cover 20.5 and made me look like a fool in this podcast.
But I mean, it was home halfway through the third quarter.
It was over. They were going to go win the game.
Yeah. And I mean, when they went up 28-17, it looked like they were just going to flat out win it money line.
Yeah. Miami 53, Duke 31. Anything else there, Mike?
No, I mean, the first good team Miami's going to play is first round of the playoff?
Yeah,
they're going to get a bye. I mean, they're going to get a bye, I guess. Probably. They'll be a top 4 seed as the ACC champ, I think. So
yeah,
they'll get a
they
bye.
Will be. Was it the quarterfinal?
The quarterfinal?
Is that
you play?
They announced this week is
whoever.
The ACC. They announced this week the ACC champ gets. Is it the Orange Bowl? It's either the Orange Bowl or the Peach Bowl, I think. That they announced.
They said they're not gonna like reroute teams either. So like once the seeds are like declared, you're going to that bowl no matter what. Like they're not gonna like move the bowl games based on matchups, which is good. Logistically, that would be a freaking nightmare, and I don't think they want to deal with it. But yeah, I think the ACC champ is going to be on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And we'll see who they play. But yeah, I mean, Miami's first real game is going to be maybe the ACC title, but probably not. So yeah, probably the quarterfinal.
Yeah. most likely. Miami 53, Duke 31. Mike, do you have your timer on your phone?
I can.
You want to try to do 2 games in 3 minutes? I bet we can.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean,
let me know when you're ready.
We could definitely talk about these in 3 minutes. Yep. All right. 1, 2, 3, go.
NC State 59, Stanford 28. Stanford's the worst team in the ACC. NC State's figuring it out. I got nothing else. That's all I've got here. Did you watch this game?
That's it. Okay, we did that. No, did not. We did that in 11 seconds.
That's
not the
all
only
I got.
thing I can do in 11 seconds. Isn't that right? All right, continue.
North Carolina 35, Florida State 11. As I predicted in the preview, by the way, if there's one thing about a Jeff Collins defense is that they can overwhelm a completely mismatched, poorly coached offensive line. And sure enough, they came up with another. Hang on. They came up with another 7 sacks in this game, and Florida State could not move the ball. And that was all she wrote. I got nothing else. And we're done. We did it. Under a minute.
Way under a minute. 55 seconds.
That's, I mean, nothing to see here. Again, Stanford, worst team in the ACC, full stop. Sorry, Scott. Hate to ruin your producer's pick of the week on Stanford again, but they lost by 30 points.
We told
NC State.
We told him not to do it.
I begged him not to do it, and
yeah,
he did it anyways.
Yeah,
and yeah, Florida State. Just nothing. We're done. We're done there. Amari and Hampton. If anything, there is a little bit of frustration with North Carolina. In a game that you won by like 4 scores, you press the Amari and Hampton button 32 times on the ground and 3 more in the receiving game. Like you're still trying to get bowl eligibility. Like you don't have to run this guy into the ground. I worry a little bit about the tread on the tires thing as it comes to draft stock with him, but it's fine.
Yeah. Oh well. Yes. Fair. Joey. We had a discussion at the beginning of the year about North Carolina.
Oh.
Well, we can talk about that in a second, too.
Mm-hmm.
We had a discussion at the beginning of the year about North Carolina and whether or not they make a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Joey, I think they're cruising to a bowl game. I think they're potentially could win 7 here.
They're going to finish 7-5, and I'm going to be really mad about it.
Yeah. And I think Carolina is another one of those teams. We talked about NC State. More on the rapid react than the 9 seconds we gave them a minute ago. I think North Carolina is another one of those teams, at least on the offensive side of the ball, that has figured some things out. And defensively, they've had a really good couple weeks. Obviously, I think the game against Virginia is more impressive than today against Florida State. Because even though Florida State's got talent, going in, Florida State's a terrible offense. And statistically, Virginia has a much better offense. And you had the 10 sack, 12 tackle for loss game. So defensively, they're playing better against bad competition. And the good news for Carolina is they're going to have some bad offenses they're playing down the stretch. And
yeah.
The best one they're probably playing is NC State. Wake and BC's offenses are a little rough. So,
gosh, if North Carolina wins out, is their best win at Minnesota, at Virginia,
at Minnesota,
at Boston College, or home against NC State? Once again, I'm quickly
today.
Somehow, yeah. I'm quickly getting fed up with this whole imbalanced scheduling thing of man, it is pretty easy to somehow get set up with a schedule where you play a whole bunch of nothing, and I'm sure it'll be fixed next year, right? It'll get better.
It's a whole 17 teams thing.
Yeah. Got to figure out some pods or something to make some heads or tails of half of this stuff. But anyways.
Yeah.
UNC 35, Florida State 11. Florida State's dead and buried
cooked.
At this point. Yeah.
So cooked. Should we get to that very quickly? The Alexis Slaris thing. Would 2-10 or 1-11 get him fired? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Florida State is a public school, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like contracts and stuff are public record, because I think a lot of the speculation and such has been that Mike Norvell basically has a buyout that is, I want to say, north of $60 million. And, in an ironic twist of fate for a program that has been crying and moaning for 9 months about how much money they do or don't make and all that, it really doesn't seem like they can afford a $65 million buyout without some help from the Saudis or some nonsense like that. So on some level, it kind of doesn't seem like it matters how many games they lose this year. I don't think they're getting out from under Mike Norvell just yet. And honestly, I don't think that's that's a bad thing overall. Like, I think he can coach, and I think that he can figure it out. So I don't think they really want to be, but yeah, I don't think there's almost any scenario at this point where he's getting fired.
$63.8 million officially.
Woo! Do you know how many things I would not do for $63.8 million?
Yeah,
I would not coach.
One of them, I'll tell you that.
I would gladly not coach the Florida State Seminoles for $63.8 million. Gladly. Even a small fraction of that, I would gladly not coach the. Anyways.
Look, Joey, obviously you and I enjoy doing this podcast together, right? We've been doing it a while, and we do this out of enjoyment, not money. But if somebody offered us $63.8 million to never do this podcast again, buddy, I'll see you on the nearest golf course.
Well, now that we have 504 subscribers on YouTube, I mean, $63.8 million might not be enough. So,
getting in the Joe Rogan Spotify territory for that, that kind of money.
There you go. There it is. Oh, goodness.
God.
Maybe get me a cardiologist for that amount of money. I don't know.
Yeah. We're 9 minutes away from the time change.
Should we do some awards?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Hang on. Let's turn it down a little bit. There we go. The Go ACC Moment of the Week. I don't think I saw any nominees on Twitter. Did we?
No. Kind of a quiet week. I mean, there are a couple things I have. I guess there
were a lot of block kicks this week, for what it's worth.
The block kick thing with Clemson would be one. That would be the whole Go ACC thing. Also, we didn't really discuss this in the Virginia Tech game, but there was a clock management thing, not with Brent Pry. It was with the ACC officials, where Colin Schlee, Virginia Tech's quarterback, was kind of tackled, and they were trying to determine if his knee was down or not. And Virginia Tech wanted that reviewed, and then the officials couldn't decide if there was a 10-second runoff or not. Virginia Tech had called a timeout to try to get the play reviewed, and then obviously they won that review. And then the ACC officials said there was a 10-second runoff anyway, so they had to actually use that timeout. I'm not sure that's the correct ruling. So,
I think it was right before halftime. I think
right before half.
So there was a low snap. He leaned down to get the ball, and I guess in doing so, his knee touched the ground. But they didn't call it that way when the play was being run. So he just shoots up it's a QB draw basically. Picks up 15 yards, slides. It takes 5 seconds. We're going to call timeout, whatever. And then they go back and review it. And no, his knee touched the ground. And they still charged him a full 10 seconds. And we're wait a second.
Which,
if you had called him down the proper time, we would have called timeout at that point.
Right. So I'm not sure they should have been that runoff should have been enforced.
Yeah, that was
an
odd interpretation. Yeah.
And the end result essentially was that Virginia Tech, they ended up having a 50-yard run by Jeremiah Coney before halftime.
Mm-hmm.
But that was it. Like, the time ran out, and it was really a result of that 10 seconds. Because otherwise, Virginia Tech would have been able to clock it and kick a field goal.
Get down to the 5.
Yeah, right. So you either run a play to try to score a touchdown, or you kick a short field goal before half.
Yep.
So that was obviously unfortunate. So I think that's a go ACC officiating thing, because that's been a trend this year. A lot of bad officiating.
Week over week. Go ACC to that. The Brian Van Gorder Memorial You Tried Award goes to my lungs for trying not to cough.
Maybe go see you this week.
Yeah. Go see a doctor. Goodness. Goes to Duke's defense for trying to hang on in the second half, and that could have gone better.
Multiple defenses. Virginia Tech's, Stanford's,
Yeah.
Florida State's. You
A
tried.
lot of special teams units trying to block for kicks.
Oh, my God. Field goal kicks. Yeah.
It was, bit of a mess. For only 6 games, there were a lot of candidates this week.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So you tried.
Yeah.
Everyone out there, you tried. We'll try again next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Kobe Bryant Memorial Volume Shooter of the Week Award. Can I give this one to Cade Klubnik?
Sure.
56 attempts for 228 yards through the air, 12 carries for 43 yards on the ground. So that would be, what, by my math, 68 passing and rushing attempts for a grand total of 271 yards. That's a whole lot of plays that did not go a whole lot of distance. So,
Kobe.
Shout out to Cade Klubnik.
Florida State's Brock Glenn and Luke Cromenhoek went 8 of 18 for 159 yards and a touchdown and 2 interceptions. That was really bad.
Is that good?
They also had 28 carries for 42 yards as a team. Obviously not sack adjusted.
Yeah. Wow. Good times.
So,
good times.
That was really bad.
Any further unsanctioned awards this week, Mike, or are we?
I mean, it's almost 2:00 in the morning.
And thereby 1
We got a
o'clock in the
couple.
morning.
Oh, yeah. Just give me 4 minutes. It's three more than I need. Stanford, you died award.
You don't need that many. Hey,
You don't need that many. Stanford, you died award. Florida State, you also died award.
yeah, game over. We're done.
Florida State, worse. It was at home in front of like 25,000 people because their stadium's getting
Woof.
renovated.
Yeah. Speaking of dead crowds,
Yeah.
that whole from the opening kickoff, that crowd did not want to be there. So
No.
yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah. Player of the week?
Isaac Brown for me for Louisville.
Yeah. Really good.
What an
The
effort
celebration
from him.
to boot was outstanding.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Team of the week is also Louisville for me, for what that's worth.
So one of these.
Yeah. Xavier Restrepo, honorable mention, player of the week.
Yeah, I think Cam Ward, Xavier Restrepo, Ward 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. Restrepo 8 for 146 and 3 touchdowns. And then Elikiah Maynor, I know in a losing effort, 4 for 108
Mm-hmm.
and a touchdown. That's efficiency, Joey.
Highly efficient. Let's go.
And then I know we're handing these out like they're candy, but Amari and Hampton, 32 for 172 and 4 touchdowns. Yeah.
Worked way harder than he should have had to, but shout out to that guy. That's a yeoman's effort.
Yeah.
Leading rusher and receiver in that game, by the way.
Yeah, he was really, 3 for 93. Hampton's probably like our overall player of the week.
Yeah.
Probably has to be.
Quiet. So for a not very good North Carolina team, Amari and Hampton, candidate for ACC Player of the Year. Like Cam Ward's gonna get it, but you want to talk about a single guy that's like dragging his team into bowl eligibility? Like Amari and Hampton is on the table there.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I haven't given out my team of the week. I refuse to give it to Syracuse because I'm freaking sick over that game. Syracuse honorary. Okay? Honorary. I'm
yeah.
sick over it, so respect my decision. SMU.
Yeah. All right. Fair.
I mean, Joey, they won by 23. They won by 23 against a
Mike,
ranked team.
I am not giving SMU credit. Okay. I don't give SMU credit for almost anything this year. Like,
It's true. That is very true.
I haven't started yet. I'm not starting now.
SMU or Louisville, I guess.
I was in a fraternity in college. I understand freshman hazing. I get it. Like, we're not doing it with SMU.
Yeah, it's fine.
We might be doing it with SMU. I don't know.
Yeah, long-standing ACC member going to the title game.
I was so excited like 2 weeks ago to make the joke about what the rivalry trophy that SMU and Pitt played for was, because of, you know, all the historic matchups that these two teams have had, because
Oh yeah.
you know, within this historic ACC conference and the whole, yeah, anyways.
Yeah.
Didn't get to make those jokes.
Shame.
Yeah, well, now that the time has changed, we'll make them now.
Back to 1 a.m.
Anyways. That's right. Same time here as it is there. So we'll not be live in an hour when that changes again.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get out of here and preview week 11?
Yep. We're into the heart of November, unfortunately. We're coming
That's
up
right.
on the end of the regular season.
That's right. That's right. You know, and one of these days it's not going to be like 90 degrees here, and you know, that'll be great. I'm looking forward to it.
It's 80 degrees on Halloween in Virginia, so
Yeah. I mean, I was out here in a t-shirt and shorts and like sweating, walking around with my kid trick-or-treating. Like, love that. So anyways, we are going to come back usually Wednesday nights. Oh, let's hang on. We got to look.
this is if this is not the week to have Cam on for the Miami Georgia Tech game, I think this is the week, Joey.
I think it was after we went live on here, they announced that game was going to be a nooner at Bobby Dodd.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, if you're trying to pull the upset,
stole the 3:30 from you.
In a way, if you're trying to pull the upset, the nooner might be where you want to do that. Like, it's not like it's going to be like a really raucous crowd at noon at
Right.
Bobby Dodd, but you might get a sleepwalking Miami for a while, and you know, as Duke did, you might get out to a lead here and get a chance to defend it in the second half. Anyways, I don't know. We'll come back. We're going to preview week 11. We've got 7 games, including a Notre Dame game. So what is it? You know, a bunch of, I don't know. We got 13 conference teams now playing next week. So come back, hang out with us Wednesday night, most likely, when we will come and preview those games, Mike.
Yeah. Yep. Wednesday night. Maybe get Cam on.
Maybe. Hey, Cam.
Hey, Cam.
Mike, you want to get out here and come preview some games?
Yep. Let's do it.
All right. In the meantime, on Twitter, at FTRSJoey, at Mike McDaniel, SI, at BC Podcast ACC. Find us on iTunes, on Spotify, on Amazon, wherever you find your audio podcasts. Go find us there. Go find us at youtube.com/at the ACC Football Podcast. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon. You'll find out when we're going to go live. You can come join us in the chat. We appreciate the folks. We had a ton of participation tonight from Alexis Solaris. Really appreciate that. That was a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun Wednesday nights, especially. So please come join us if you are open, awake, available, and want to come hang out and talk about the games that are coming up. Mike, where else on the social medias?
Facebook.com/basketball conference rate review. Find most of our podcasts there. YouTube, 550 by the end of November. I demand it.
That's right.
Demand it.
We're gonna really surprise Scott when he comes back, finding out that we have mandated 550 by the end of November.
550.
See if we can get there.
Gonna find
We
a
believe
way.
in you.
Let's do it.
Basketball Conference Podcast at gmail.com is the
Nailed
email
it.
address. Thank you.
Yep.
Mike, that's all I got. Anything else?
Now we're good.
We'll see you at a preview week 11.
We'll see you on Wednesday night.
Wednesday night. Let's go. All right. For that guy, Mr. Mike McDaniel, for myself, I'm Joey Weaver. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to you again very, very soon. Until then, go ACC.